No, for me, I'm like, no, I know the psychology of machines and that will not happen. Yeah, a machine does not have a soul.
Right.
So as long as a machine does not have a soul, forget that argument. Remember I said something about you taking a class called logic? Logic helps you to think. A class called logic helps you to think logically. Now, the first argument does not follow the next argument. If we are talking about machines taking over the world. If a machine does not have a soul, therefore, that is usually what you learn in a logic class. Therefore, what is the next argument in the next sentence? And then the conclusion. That conclusion does not happen. So how can you tell me about psychology of machines will take over the world? A machine does not have a soul. So that means that it is missing a very critical piece of a human being that it will never have. And therefore, it will never capture the whole psychology of a human being. You see? So for me, that argument dies right there.
Let me build on that, because if you really have your ear to the ground right now, when it comes to psychology, now you're even hearing about therapy using AI, and it's getting this big buzz, and people are writing about the way my AI therapist did for me what my physical therapist could not do. And for me, I just laugh. But what is happening again, we look at and understand what happened before to understand why we are where we are. But I feel like we better very quickly understand what the factors then looked like and how they look like today. They are somewhat still similar in the sense that you're being pushed on knowledge that for you have not even had the opportunity to explore and discover your own knowledge on the basis of where you're at and what your society is. I don't know if I'm making sense, but now you have people saying that AI should take over now mental health in Kenya, delivering mental health services.
I will never go to that therapist.
It's not even about the therapist. It's about how can you be talking about that when we are still have not uploaded our own indigenized, psychology to our own learning, our own experience, and our own delivery of the service itself, right? There are some Kenyan psychologists who have hopped on that bandwagon. But for me, it still feels the same as when psychology was introduced in 1979. It still feels the same like when religion was introduced. It still feels the same like when colonialism entered. It is still the same idea of pushing ideas onto you before you're able to process your own. And when I really think about the true state of psychology in this country, and the fact that we still have Mathare National Hospital, okay? I hear you guys wanted it to be changed to Upper Muthaiga so that you can feel that it is GST. I don't know. It doesn't change the service delivery, because if you've gone to Mathare up to the very end where there was the first sanatorium built, they are still putting patients there, right? You know that one where there's a small room, then it's locked from the outside. Yeah, that we are still doing that, right? So we want to use the AI, call it Apamothaiga, but we are still over-medicating patients, so that we can control their behavior, not actually treat them. But sure, let's go for AI, right? The most important thing I think we are able to get from this book is that even as the world is trying to push us to believe that AI is a future we all cannot escape and we must all begin to orient ourselves to that direction. You read this book and you realize, especially in the oceanic countries, basically the global south, the desire is to actually uplift the human experience and uplift the contribution that needs to be made. Because if you look at, for example, India and their psychology, and they are saying that they want their psychology to represent who they are as a people. So their kind of psychology must be around their principle of reincarnation, their principle of oneness with the universe, their principle of release, for example, where you don't gain attachment to worldly things. You can have them, many enjoy them, but they're like, don't get attached to them. So for them, they're saying they want to create a consciousness around that, where they are also saying they want to introduce, they want to build on even their human intuition, okay? So the noise about AI, for me, I feel is unfounded. We can definitely be able to use AI to identify gaps in mental health, to be able to take a session like this one where people are talking about mental health, use AI to take it out there. We can be able to use AI to enable somebody in, I want to name a part in Kenya that I'm sure you guys don't know, have never heard about, okay? Now, if I name this part of Kenya, and you know it and you've heard of it, lift your hand, okay? Okay? If you know it and you just lift your hand. So, we want to be able to enable, we can use AI to enable a psychotherapy session for a psychologist who is in Nairobi, and another one is in Sarira. You see, nothing. And then someone wants to talk to me about AI. No, I refuse. You know, we want to talk about AI, and if you go to the hospital in Wajir, the last time I was there, the toilet that patients used to use, you get into the toilet, you use it, and then there's somebody with a mkokoteni who comes with buckets, and he takes the bucket that is underneath the toilet and he puts the waste here. And then you want to talk to me about AI. I'm sorry, you know. So in this book also, globally there is the challenge of a concentration of psychologists in the urban areas. So in the book, everyone is saying, can psychologists be able to get into the mashinani, into the rural areas, into the peri-urban areas? You know, can we be able to do that? And, you know, I think a big reason is this. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. If nimeenda sana, just let me know. Me, my theory is this. The way psychology has been taught, okay? The way it has been packaged. My experience is that it has made psychologists feel they are elite. Huh? There are things they can't do. Like, I'm supposed to sit in an office that is arranged in a certain way. The wall must be a certain color, you know, for the feng shui, right? There must be a flower in between. Me, I've learned all those things have nothing to do with anything. So, there has been an elitist approach to psychology where you're supposed to be a creature of comfort. My deployment with soldiers at the front to be able to provide psychological support rewrote a lot of things for me, because there you find there are cooks, plumbers, mechanics, drivers, surgeons, physicians, So when you really think about it, the only way we can make a difference is to be able to go to where our services are needed. Now, people will say, oh, there is no structure. Go and make the structure. Because one thing I'm not sure about right now, are you guys being taught about how to build that system of being able to provide psychological services from scratch?
No.
Yeah, you see? So that is something you might have to teach yourselves. Because part of the elitist training is that you come and find a prepared system. But who prepared that system? Who prepared it? It wasn't me. It wasn't USIU. Again, we go back to the history of what, how psychology is structured. So if we want psychology to actually work for us, and you can read it in the chapters in these books, people are saying the psychology must reflect upon who we are. But for me, I'm going further and saying, I think we need to release ourselves as psychologists from the elitist mindset. I'm an Ashoka fellow, okay? And you know, that's a whole other world where you have people who are literally solving problems without, it doesn't matter where the problem is. So one of them is this lady who is a veterinarian. Her story was on CNN the other day. And her work in Bwindi, it's pronounced Bwindi, right? Yeah, Bwindi, in Uganda, where she has actually saved gorillas there from going into extinction. She's a veterinarian. And Bwindi, I had like, they were speaking and I had like they were speaking Kakamba. But it's like, if you've ever been to Kakamega rainforest, the environment looks like that. You know, it's a tropical rainforest and stuff. But this lady is a veterinarian. That place is very far away from the conveniences of Kampala, from the conveniences of, what do you call the other place? Kampala and?
There are several. There is Kampala, Hoima, Mbarara. I think it's Mbarara.
No, I'm talking about Entebbe.
Entebbe.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, just in terms of conveniences. Yeah. So, in terms of just conveniences, you have, you know, those two places. Because I have been all the way to the north up to the border with South Sudan. And of course, what I saw in Gulu is not what is in Entebbe, is not what is in Kampala. But this lady went there and, you know, her family supported her. And she, without conveniences, without thinking of how she wants those creature comforts, she literally saved gorillas, right? And I think when we think about just the work, can we be able to see psychologists go and create a system and a structure? I'm not saying it's easy, you know. I look back right now at the things that I've been doing and I'm like, yeah, you know, but they've definitely been worth it because, you know, that's what has been able to connect me to networks, to opportunities, and to people. Someone asked me when we went outside about the publishing of this book, because one thing that is true, we are all so brilliant. And I know amongst you, there are those of you who have like written something down, are writing something down, are aspiring to write something down. But after you do that, where do you take it? Me, I won't sit here and tell you that there has been a grand plan in my life. You know? I just look clean because I showered. It's true. But I've not had like a grand plan. Me, I'll be honest with you. But it is out of doing the work, talking to people, sharing with people, that Mary, who you saw here, said to me, we are doing this book and we want you to contribute a chapter. And then I said to her, well, I can't do it alone. That's when I reached out to Mary, I reached out to Margaret. Because we have a long history of working together, but also with Margaret as well, right? So there is no grand plan. But there is only the work, the networks, the people, and the conversations. Okay? Somebody says, how did you get into Ashoka? The work, the people, the networks, and the conversations. How did you get the International Humanitarian Award? The work, the people, the networks, the conversations. For me, that's what I'll tell you. So I don't sit down and say, this year I'm getting this award. This year no. It's not like that. For me, I keep doing my work. I keep designing the programs. I keep, testing and experimenting. Because you must realize this idea that you're waiting for somebody to give you permission, to blow a whistle, to tell you you're good enough to have a theory or to express yourself. For me, that is part of the mental colonization. Because for me, honestly, Africans are brilliant, Africans are so brilliant. And you only need to go and sit in tables where you thought you had always wanted to go and sit in. You hear them talk and you're like, why did I take my energy, my life, my time to come here and listen to this? Because really, it's nothing but privilege that gets some people to certain places. But sometimes we look at that and we confuse it with, that person is worthy, I am not worthy. For me, I'll say, there is no magic bullet. As long as you're doing the work, you're building the networks, you're keeping the conversation going, that is the grand plan, if you're to ask me. But to sit back and say, I went to school in USIU, so I'm entitled. I did my graduate school in USIU, so it doesn't matter. Like in the real world, that shouldn't matter. But for me, I feel more so in psychology, because it's also a discipline that is heavily struggling and struggling and is also being hijacked. People will tell you there is a pill that will balance your moods. What are you talking about? A pill that will make you sleep, a pill that you will... That's why America is where it is right now. So like everywhere I visit, I'll visit a place and I'll say, I want to visit one or two psychologists, I go to Malaysia and I'm like, I want to, so I start the conversations early. Because I'm audacious like that. Like I'll look at a place I'm going, I see psychologists, and I write to them and I say, I'm coming between this date and this date, when can you accommodate me? I don't know these people, but I'm an African with audacity. And I go and I meet these people and we talk, and from there on we are constantly talking. I've been to Israel as well, but I'm never going back there because of how, no, it's true. You see, the things that the world is coming to accept and realize right now about Israel, for me, I realized over 17 years ago. But when I was trying to tell people, they were saying, stop that. But even as an African, stop insisting to go to where you're not wanted. Stop insisting to go to where you're not valued. Stop insisting to go where there'll be no recognition for you. I saw this lady from Nigeria who was invited to receive an award in Dubai. And then there were many other people. She was the only African. So they all gave each other, presents and they clapped. The event ended. Then that's when she was called to be given her award. You shall know I am an African. Okay, but first of all, for me, I would not have waited that long. I would have left. But what I'm saying is, like, as an African, just know that you know a lot. Just value yourself, have esteem. And if it becomes really bad, just plan a trip and go to Turkana. Okay, that's what I did personally. When you reach that point in your disenchantment with everything and you're like, I just want to discover, where am I from? Not from a cultural point of view, at USIU-A, this, that, but really as a human being, why is there so much conflict in the world? And so I took a trip and I went by myself and I went to Turkana. It's called Nariatomes, in Kalokan specifically, where, you know, mitochondrial DNA. You know, Africans have mitochondrial DNA, like that original Nini. So you have to begin to retell the stories to yourself if you're going to actually do things differently. So I'm just saying you have to hack your own psychology. You'll have to hack your own psychology and hack each other's psychology. Because if there's one thing this book, when you read it, you will see, we are one people. We really are. We are one people. And people are actually striving to just be happy. People are not looking for anything else. People are just looking on how to be happy. So even when I read about Saudi Arabia and how, of course, they prefer the religious way of doing things, which I also saw in the course of my work. Like, it was very difficult, especially when you were dealing with soldiers who are psychotic, to be able to treat them. Their families would come for them in the ward. Ameenda kusomewa Quran. And so, of course, then now I'm like, if you're going to take my patient for this alternative treatment that I know nothing about, you have to include me. I have to see what it is that you're doing. So what people believe also affects their mental health. So are you the kind of professional psychologist who will want to actually embed yourself with the work to be able to understand how to make it more friendly, user-friendly for the population that you're serving? Or are you going to again make them to fit into the theories that have been taught out there that have nothing to do with us? Because as you will read in this book, me, I love the way these countries are so blunt. Like when you read, I think it's Singapore, when you read China, Japan, they say very clearly, Western psychology separated the spirit from the person. And when you continue reading, they say that's what they are now trying to reclaim. They are trying to, once again, enjoy the spirit aspect of the person, as part of holistic psychology. I've talked a lot. Can you talk?
It's okay, it's okay. I mean, it's all helpful. I think I want to start saying that culture no, let me start from a different place. When we come to an academic institution like this one, now I'm talking like a scientist, you're coming here to look for the best idea, okay? You're window shopping for the best idea. That's basically what you're doing. If I granulate it to the micro level, you're here to shop for the best idea, okay? And breaking news to you, you might not find it here, okay? I'm not saying quit now, drop out. No, that's not what I'm saying. Don't get off the bus yet. Keep going. But the best idea is ahead of you. All right? So always know that you're in an academic institution to seek the best idea. And that is why a library like this one is so important. Go through all these books as you try and voraciously look for the best idea in your field. Okay? That is what a scientist does. Because when I think of even just in medicine, maybe infectious diseases, whatever medicine they were using to treat patients 100 years ago is no longer the best idea. So you have to keep up with what is the most, I'm not saying keep up with the Joneses and just go for any idea because it's the modern idea.
Hata hii imekata. Haya basi, paza sauti. Utaweza?
Nitajaribu. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. I hope you get what I'm saying. Pursue good ideas. Don't pursue all ideas, pursue good ideas. Good ideas are what make the world better. Not all ideas or the most famous ideas or the most populous ideas, as she was saying.
It's back.
Okay, yeah, so don't just move with the tide. Read and digest the ideas that are being presented to you. Okay, and then take a class that helps you to think about thinking. There's a class called cognition. In psychology, it's called cognition. In another field, it can be called logic. I find that one of the things as therapists we do is to help people to think better. Okay? There are faulty ways that we think, and that is why we have the problems we have in the world. People have faulty thinking. Okay? And so she had left you all in suspense when she said we are going to come back and talk about religion. Religion is one of those things that people need to think about critically. Think about it to the end. Why there's however many types of it there is. Think about that. That is still part of psychology. And why have they influenced the world for so long? Okay, for example, Western civilization is based on the Bible, which is the Christian book. Okay? Western civilization has reached you here at USIU. So those ideas of that time have reached you and have influenced how you think. Okay? So you go back and find why they were thinking that way. The same because, for example, if you read the chapter on Saudi Arabia, I'll even read it verbatim. Psychology has been present in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia since 1963 at Makkah College of Education. So are you even hearing the name? The name is Makkah College of Education. Okay? So already religion is influencing how people think in that institution. And that is true even in Western societies. Okay? So now the current problem they're having in Saudi is Saudi psychology is not entirely separated from its educational beginnings, hindering the advancement of psychology branches that are not closely related to education. Okay? So they are still trying to develop their ideas in terms of where does religion end and where does psychology begin. And where does education start and where does, they're trying to separate these things to think about them more deeply. As human beings, we have such monumentous tasks to develop all these ideas, and we don't do it in one generation. You just do the best you can. You know, that's how people become professor emeritus when they're in academic institutions, because they've tried to develop certain ideas since when they join the university until they finish. Okay, that's when they become. So they've been dabbling in certain ideas and they've tried to develop them as much as possible, and then they hand over to the next generation. So save your energy and look for something that looks like it can be immortalized. Look for an idea to pursue that will last for several generations. Don't go for something that, is just the phase of the time. That's how you might have heard we are feeling about this AI. Even as we are thinking about it, we're like, is this just one of those phases that we are going through as a human race, and then this AI phase will be over and then something else will come? So you constantly have to think about those things that are coming into your space, whether they have lasting capability. And then question the ones that have lasted, why did they have lasting capability? And actually religion falls in that category. Why is it that it can't seem to go away? Because some people are like, please, let's just finish this thing and be over and done with it, right? But maybe there's something to be learned in all those religions that we need to think about, because it affects how we think. And that's how now religion comes to influence psychology. Yeah? I think for me, I'll end there, if you don't mind. If you have further questions, please present them to the library staff and they can let us know. Maybe at this point we can talk about the future, about what we'd like to do in terms of actioning what you may have heard today, how we can action those things if you're interested, so that it doesn't all just remain here. We can actually move it forward. Yeah. And we highly recommend that you get the book, especially if you're a psychology student or if you're interested in psychology. It will teach you many things. Yeah.
For me, I would say, as long as you're here listening, you don't even have to be a psychology major. Let me tell you why. This book, when you read it, you realize the opportunity. Where does the opportunity lie? In the pain that psychologists are expressing in this book. The pain of organizing themselves. The pain of our regulatory body. The pain of legislation and policies. You know? And I'm telling you, the opportunity is there. Now, I can only tell you this because I happened to go outside the bubble of psychology as just the way it is taught, but ventured into innovation, into legislation, into advocacy, into program design, right? So, when we are talking about what is the future is that you as a, let me tell you what is so interesting. Like if you talked to a business major, they finish USIU, then the next thing you hear, they are the regional manager of East and Central Africa. And you're like, how? Right? But do you know any psychologist who is the regional person of East and Central Africa psychology organizations? There isn't. Why can't you be the one? Why can't you actually form your networks so that you can approach these governments, you can approach these organizations and say, give me the job of organizing you. So what I'm saying is that psychology is not just about what is being taught, but understanding the opportunities that are there in the setting that you're in. We've already accepted, I don't know if there's anyone who is countering this reality, but we've already accepted that there seems to be a movement towards the amalgamation of Africa as a country, essentially, isn't it? So why is psychology being left behind? Why is it it's only being looked at from an economic, a political, you sit down at the M-Pesa Ethiopia, you sit down at the KBL Uganda, you sit, no, what about psychology South Africa, like psychology Egypt, like what is stopping you, especially for an international school, like what is it? So when I was in USIU, of course, the idea of exchange students and all that, it was we have that exchange program for Raha purposes. But I think USIU is a bit serious nowadays. So I'm gonna take you guys for the seriousness that USIU is nowadays. What is stopping you from actually being able to collaborate and partner with somebody who is studying psychology from a different country and going there and going to whether psychology is under the Ministry of Health, which most of them are. What is stopping you from approaching the Ministry of Health and saying, I want to be able to help bring psychologists together and our regulatory body? What is stopping you? Because if you're staying with the work, you're building your networks, the conversations are happening. What is really stopping you? So that's why I keep saying, I want you guys to really, really have high self-esteem. Be audacious and do it, right? And if somebody is trying to spike you and tell you, you know, you must think about your future, you must think about your comfort. If you don't do this now at this age, when else are you gonna do it? Because let me tell you, you can try and do it when you have children, if you choose to have them. You can try and do it if you are in a marriage, if you choose to get married. But it's a lot harder because your attention is split, your ability to take risks is lower, and if you actually choose to take those risks, it's at the cost of other people who require you. So for me, I would say, do it now. Usually it is said, even if you fail, fail early, so that you can be able to actually get up and try a different way. I don't know whether you guys have heard this saying that even if you fail 10,000 times, to get it right that 10,001 time, you at least discovered 10,000 ways not to do it. Yes, it can't work. So for me, I would say when you have the protections of an institution, where you have the abundance that's coming from support from your family, they can't throw you away now. Maybe later, but not now. So now you can experiment. You can travel places on a budget, because nowadays that is possible. You can explore, you can see what is working, you can experiment, you can collaborate, you can do all these things, you know, without feeling like there's something that is holding you back that is real. Whatever it is that you think is, it's not real. It's not real. So I really wish you guys fun, adventure, you know? And I'm not saying it from a theoretical perspective, it's what I gave myself, you know? And even right now, at the ripe old age that I am, I promise you, I am still adventuring, I am still experimenting, you know? I'm not this person who is like, no, I'm looking forward to retirement. Me, I'm a pensioner. I became a pensioner in my 30s. Pension for life. But I will never regard myself as somebody who has a certain limit, you know? Of course, my body can't do what I did as a cadet when I was 20 years old, right? But that doesn't mean that I still can't be able to move around and ambulate and do several things. So don't be afraid of the limitations that you think are of your body, of your mind, or of your spirit. Those limitations are not real. And if you want to test the theory, go for basic military training. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lesia.